Hello, Global Gladiators. We're back with Street Masters Rise of the Kingdom. Today we're going to be looking at the baddest of the bad guys. The big-ass tornado in a can that slaps all of the enemies engaged with him. His name is Kemono. His backstory is that he was chained down in the basement of the kingdom and has been used to fight against fighters for the joy and amusement of the upper echelons of the organization for centuries, until Shadow rescues him. So that's the backstory between the different characters of the kingdom, and now we're going to talk about punching people. Kemono, if you're going to play through the story and the Kiryu Natalia fight that I did the first video on, has Kemono as the boss, and it's the first story fight in the prologue for Rise of the Kingdom. You're going to fight against Kemono. He's got a lot of health, he's got a lot of attacks, and he stores energy and unleashes it on you in the form of electricity. So as the boss of the kingdom, he's kind of badass. You can also bring him in as an ally or as a rival. He still has a fairly good amount of health in both circumstances and a lot of attacks. As an ally, for some reason, he has grapple defense, but his biggest defense in other places is with punch tokens. But he also can hit everyone engaged with him, and that's super important, especially if you can cluster all the enemies together. It's very, very helpful. He doesn't have an electricity attack as a rival or ally, but that's okay. If you have the redemption pack, you can unleash all the electrical attacks that you could possibly want. So we're going to look at him as a fighter and show you just how cool being a bad guy can be. So let's jump into it by looking at his normal fighter card. He's got 30 health. That's more than any other fighter by far. He charges at 5 power, which is in the moderate range. It's not super fast, it's not super slow. But he can't heal while he's on this side. So this normal side of the card would be referred to as the charging side. That's one of the reasons he's got so much health to help balance that out. And on his normal action, it says suffer 1 direct damage or place 1 current token on a surge card in your play area. He is more of a battery than the other fighters. He's not just storing power, he's also storing, maybe you can think of it as static electricity. And if he gets too much, then he either has to use it up right away, or he's going to start taking damage. There's no real benefit to taking damage, so you just need to hit somebody in the face, or shoot somebody, or shock somebody, do something with all that excess energy, and it's going to take a lot of planning. Let's flip on over to his charge side and take a look what happens once you do get enough power. So now you can heal. And if you use 3 of your current tokens, you can heal 1 for each. Now, let's just talk a little bit about current tokens. This is what they look like. You can get a maximum storage of 9 tokens. For the action, you can also attack for 2 dice every enemy within 4 spaces of you. So that's 4 left, 4 right, 4 top, 4 bottom. That's a huge 16 hex area that you can turn in those 9 current tokens you may have stored up, doing an attack for 2 and up to 9 general damage. That is a crazy lightning storm that is even better than anything Kiryu can pull off with electricity. So you can see he's a big badass. Electricity isn't his only attack. He's got 6 arms of fury to slap you in the face with. But that's a pretty simple attack. I don't think it requires a lot of explanation. So we're going to just look at the tactic cards and what you need to be doing in order to store those current tokens for a big attack or big effect later. One of the big things to notice is that all of his tactic cards are starred. You can only have 3 tactics out at a time. First up is Channeled Static, which allows you to store 3, but you can exhaust it and buff up an attack. That means you'll only be able to get 1 extra dice. You got to think about that. Is it better to have one extra dice now? Maybe you really need to clear a minion, or you can store it up and try to take a big hit on a boss or a big minion that's causing a lot of problems. If you look at Electric Aura, this one stores 4. That's the highest storage of any of the tactic cards. You can gain some defense tokens. That's really useful every round, but again, you got to think, am I going to be using Kemono as someone who's purely offensive, or am I going to be using him as someone who can stand up and take a bunch of hits because I have such a high amount of health that I need a lot of defense tokens. You may want to maximize the amount of power you have to stay on your charge side for the purpose of being able to heal. And that's a cool thing about Electric Aura. If you look, it's got an action. If you're on that charge side, it will allow you to heal 2 damage, and you can do a regular single attack against an enemy. This won't cause you to use up any of your current tokens like it would if you used your action from your charge side, and you can stay on that charge side a little bit longer and heal a little bit more. If you're running a little high on those current tokens, notice you can also do a feint. If you are using a feint on one of these tactic cards, you're going to use up the current tokens that are on it. It's not like you can play it again and out of your hand and have it still have the current tokens. That's not how it works. They get used up. And there's also another one called Lambent Lashes that allows you to have another 2 current tokens stored, but it allows you to gain 1 power. This is super cool because it doesn't require you to use up any of your current tokens in order to gain a power. It's just an extra power each turn. It has a cool feint also. You can deal 1 direct damage to all the enemies within 3 spaces of you. That's everywhere around you. So if you use both of the tactic cards as feints, then you get like a mini version of the charged attack, and you don't have to use up anything. Electric Aura doesn't have a feint, so you probably keep that around. But the other 2, you're probably going to get a bunch of them in your hand, and you'll be able to do feints and replace them as the rounds go on. So the rest of Kemono's cards are pretty self-explanatory. You'll be gaining current tokens from attacks and abilities. You don't necessarily always have to get them from your uncharged side. So that's pretty cool. This is the second to last fighter in the series. I've done all of the other fighters except Shadow, and that's coming up next. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can find all of my videos in the Street Masters fan Facebook page in the video section. It doesn't really describe them with labels, it just has pictures. I understand that can be a little difficult to find, but if you see any of my posts that have the videos, I've been putting the links to the YouTube playlist, and then you can go directly to the video that you need. I do what I can to get all the rules correct. Every time you watch one of these videos, hopefully it will guide you in the direction to find the fighter you want to play. There's also a bunch of videos on different stages, and after I'm done with the fighter series, I'll continue doing some of the stages from the expansion content. Aftershock is almost on its way. At the time of this recording, it's about 3 days away. There's a lot of cool stuff in it. Hopefully you've checked it out. If you're watching this years and years into the future, beyond October 2018, hopefully it'll be at retail and you'll be able to pick up a lot of the cool stuff. Otherwise, you should always look at the Blacklist Games store website. Email them if you're looking for a copy of Street Masters and you aren't able to find one. Those guys are always super helpful. Speaking of super helpful, be sure to join the Street Masters fan Facebook page if you haven't already. They're great about answering all your questions. Have a good one.